Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies both new and old with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid any lazy negativity, we are making this a drinking game.
Drinking game.
That's right. Any negative criticism about a film is absolutely okay, but you will be called out for it, and you will have to take a drink.
A drink.
I don't know why I inflected up like that. Anyway, it's been 2 weeks since we did the intro.
That's right. That's okay. I'll put some claps in post.
Thanks, Dave. Dave, take it away.
So pour yourselves a glass, join us, and give us up for the films we love, and perhaps the films that need some love. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty I don't know, this is a pretty fun week for us, I suppose. So all of you film fans out there, we took last week off. This is 4th of July weekend. This is now Sunday, July 5th when we are recording this. So we are going to talk about films from the year 2011. That is the year of Dave's random year generator. It came up with 2011. We chose 3 films from them, 2 films that were pretty well received, and then 1 film that might need some love. And our Positive Eye Criticism podcast will be put to the test with our redemption of the week for this week.
Possibly our livers as well.
Possibly our livers, that is right. But before we get started, let's kick it over to John for some shout-outs.
All right, as always, we got our beer sponsor, Carlos Barroso. I miss drinking them. Give him a follow on Instagram at C Barroso Bar 2019. That's CBARROZOBAR 2019. Hope he's doing well. Shout out to Carlos. Send me some beer. And the music you hear on this podcast, this episode, every single time is provided by the artist Dasein. That's Dasein, Dasein. You can find him on soundcloud.com/Dasein-artist. All right, you guys.
All right. So we are going to talk about 3 films from the year 2011. The good, the bad, and that's pretty much it. We've got Bridesmaids coming up first, and we've got Cabin in the Woods. Wow. The Cabin in the Woods coming up second.
Cabin in the Woods is a whole different thing, apparently. Ugh. I found out when I searched on IMDb.
And then our redemption film is going to be Green Lantern. That is the film that brought Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively together. And that's about it. Actually, that is the best thing that it will be remembered for. Yes, before... Fuck. Okay.
And we're off.
Reminder to all your friends, when you hear that buzzer, that means that we are drinking, and we would love it if you at home drank too. I got a note from my friend Chris last week who asked if I did cocaine before the last episode. The answer to that question is no. I did not. I did not partake in any uppers. That is just me and my stasis. Wow. Beer didn't help. So I'm trying to slow it down a little bit, but no promises. Again, apologies to my brother who usually listens to podcasts on 1.5x.
Yeah, this week I don't know if it's going to be you.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, so we've taken a week off. So we are going to go around the horn here for a second. We're going to do a quick round of what you've been watching. Who wants to go first? John, you want to start? John, what you been watching?
Last week, I posted on the site about that conversation with Spike Lee on Do the Right Thing, so that inspired me. I watched that at some point last week, can't remember. I hadn't seen that in like 4 or 5 years. Always a good rewatch. We'll use that word good relative to the times we're living in right now. It made me sick to my stomach, but also made me laugh, turn the knife really well at the end. I mean, Jesus Christ. You just can't, it's hard to believe that movie was made in 1989 and is literally dealing with like the exact same thing we're talking about right now. So that was crazy. Very well made though. Anyone who has not seen that, I still think it might be my favorite Spike Lee movie. I love
me too.
A lot of his stuff. I did watch and totally finish. I watched it a little bit more than once. I didn't get all the way through the second time, but I did see Defy Bloods. Really cool. Very interesting choice with form. I don't want to get too much into it, but I thought the structure of it and the editing was interesting. It was looser than I feel like a lot of his movies are. I didn't feel that way about BlacKkKlansman, and certainly not most of his movies. So I thought that was cool. It was kind of fun to see him go off like that. I can't remember last time we talked. I told you guys I'm reading the Hannibal Lecter series, so I have seen
I've read those.
Seen The Red Dragon and Silence of the Lambs, which is fucking wonderful.
Yeah, never.
I'm still pumping through the Next Generation Star Trek, so loving those. And I watched these 3 movies, so catching up, feeling good, reading a lot. How about you guys?
Dave?
I actually checked out Ad Astra, the
Right.
Brad Pitt sci-fi film.
Was that your first watch?
Yeah, first time I've seen it.
I feel like this came up in our pod, but I drank a lot, so it's hard for me to remember exactly.
I don't know, but I feel like John, you've seen this, right?
I saw it last year in IMAX.
It really, really takes its time to get there, and you just don't mind. Like the performances are solid. It's one like because normally I'm the one to argue for pacing, but in this case it was the opposite, and I really dug it. It's different sci-fi. I'd put it up there with what's the Natalie Portman?
Lucy and this guy.
No, the one where they go in the bubble.
The Bubbles.
Annihilation.
Yeah,
we saw that together.
Annihilation.
That's
with
one.
Shimmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd put it right up there with that for pacing and stuff like that. It's kind of worth a watch. It's
I
something
bet that was
you don't.
cool watching right after you watched Apocalypse Now, because it's basically the same.
Heart
It's
of
the Heart of
Darkness,
Darkness story.
Yeah, it was kind of strange to watch the two on like one on the back of the other, and I don't know whether it was the content of one didn't resonate with me, and the fact that the other one was sci-fi, and I'm big on sci-fi, resonated. But I don't know. But yeah, for some reason, Ad Astra really did resonate.
What did you think
It's
of
worth
the
a watch.
ending? Without spoiling anything for the audience, did you enjoy the ending? That's a lot of people have issues with that movie's ending. They kind of switched the Heart of Darkness the way the tale normally winds down.
Could it have ended any other way?
I think it could have. I still really enjoyed it.
know.
What'd you think of Max Richter's music? It's fucking awesome in that movie, right?
Don't worry, guys. I have a bunch of phone calls to make anyway. So
Cool. Yeah. Just talk amongst yourselves, Jeff. Jeff, what have you been watching?
No, Dave, answer the question.
No, that was it. No, I mean the music was definitely like a substantial portion of it. I feel like I was more into the performances, like Brad Pitt really underplayed it, and Tommy Lee Jones was incredibly grounded when you finally got to him. Like that man never wastes a minute on screen.
Yeah. Really, really powerful. And since you felt, I'm just curious with the Apocalypse Now thing, since you had some criticism for Brando, it's so similar the way it builds up, and then Tommy's just there, and he just has like 10 minutes. Did it work for you?
I mean, no. Well, it did in this case, mainly because like Tommy Lee Jones had more action. He wasn't just sitting there in shadow. I think like it was Tommy Lee Jones didn't turn up to set 80 pounds overweight. All right, fine.
All right, I'll take it from there. Thanks.
Yeah, I love that movie.
After my dickish interruption. Okay, great. So I've been on vacation, which is why we didn't record last week. And it was a family home on Cape Cod. So we're talking movies were on all the time. So we did rewatch Jaws. We got National Treasure. My 4th of July tradition is I watch the second episode of John Adams miniseries, which is Independence. I highly recommend that. We watched Matilda was on. We saw all of Pen 15. What else did I see? I've seen a lot in the past week or two. Including the 3 movies that we have to talk about today. But one thing that so when I showed up, the family had been there already, and they said they actually rented King of Staten Island. So for those of you who are friends of the pod, a couple weeks ago, I said it was a bummer because they listed King of Staten Island, which is the new Pete Davidson, Judd Apatow movie, at $20 to rent online, which is more than the price of one standard movie ticket for most theaters in the country. And I thought that was sad because it needs to make its money back, but then you're going to lose that time where everybody watches it together, because a lot of people are going to say, I don't want to watch this for $20, and they're going to wait until the price goes down. But I showed up, and they basically said, hey, you have 25 hours to watch this, because the 48-hour rental is clock is ticking. So I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this right now. So I went and I watched it. And here's what I'll say. I say it was a really, really fine movie. I thought it was a really good movie. The one drawback from people that I've talked to about whether or not they want to see it is Pete Davidson. And they're like, oh, he's just going to be playing himself. And I usually poo-poo that notion in general if somebody says they're just quote unquote playing themselves, because ultimately they have to, when the director says action, they got to show up, right? So I don't care if he sounds and looks a lot like himself, and he's basically playing a version of himself, because it's loosely based on his life growing up in Staten Island without his father, who was a firefighter. His father in real life died during 9/11. In the movie, they fictionalize it and have him die in a different fire, but very, very similar to what's going on. And I'll just say it's 2 hours. It's over 2 hours. So I was like, a 2-hour comedy. Judd Apatow, when are you ever going to learn? Trainwreck was way too long. It was so good. And if you just chop it down, it would be like a 9. This movie is really, really, really good. It's paced really, really well. There are no scenes where you watch the scene and you go, you know what? I forgot. This is just, it's just trying to get to the end. They realize they're not funny anymore. And so they're throwing plot at us and I'm bored. I just want it to be funny. There's no scene like that in the movie. It really paces really well. And I think the key ingredient is Bill Burr is really, really fine as,
Cool.
as his mom, who's Marissa Tomei. So Pete Davidson's mom's new boyfriend, Bill Burr, is really fucking funny in this movie and really, really, really good. But Steve Buscemi is sort of a wild card. You know he's in the movie and he has a scene early on, but it's not until about an hour and a half in that he has a couple really, really touching scenes, including, and I don't want to spoil too much of the emotional journey, but he basically thanks Pete Davidson for his sacrifice because his father had passed away. So he's like, thank you, Pete, for your sacrifice. You know, that you deserve a lot. You deserve a good life. You know, you should have had to have that sacrifice. And Pete Davidson can't process, because he's Pete Davidson, that he sacrificed. He doesn't realize that he's part of the process with firefighters and, you know, officers of the law who lose their life in the line of duty, that they are also sacrificing their loved ones, you know, just without the option to do so. Anyway, it's a really, really touching moment in the movie. So I highly recommend it. Yes, I know $20 is a lot, but at some point down the line, it'll come up, and see it. I think it's a really, really, really good flick. I was really happy I saw it. That's my review. That's what I've been watching. And
Cool.
That's it. Okay, cool. So we are going to talk, everybody, about Bridesmaids first. This is a comedy that got 2 Academy Award nominations. Melissa McCarthy, who had already been on TV shows and everything, went straight to A-list with her Academy Award nominated performance in this film. Kristen Wiig co-wrote the film with her really, really, really good friend, Annie Momolo, who you may know as the girl in the plane who had the dream about her and the plane was going down. Guys, where do you start? Where do you even start? Paul Feig directed. Who wants to go? Dave, John? Okay, fuck you guys. I'll go. So
Yeah,
I
you go.
remember the first time that I saw this movie in the theaters. My friend Paul Miller, who is a movie friend of mine, we used to live near each other in Harlem. He said he really wanted to see this movie. I really wanted to see this opening night. And back to my King of Staten Island rant. I really wanted the cultural moment. When I saw Bridesmaids, I saw it on, I want to say Saturday of opening weekend at 34th Street, Herald Square is the AMC. Not Herald Square, whatever. And it was packed. People were laughing in the theater. People were clapping. And it was truly a memorable theatrical experience. Like, I remember the plane sequence, the airplane sequence in Bride. I'm not going to give you the plot because everybody knows Bridesmaids who's listening to this. It's a known film. It was so funny. Melissa McCarthy, I had no idea who she was. And I could have stayed in the theater and watched her spin-off as soon as this movie ended. I was so in. I was so curious about the casting of shit. What's the Irish cop? The guy who he's had a pretty good career. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Liam Neeson?
No. God damn it, Dave. What the fuck's his name? Why can't I remember it? Damn it. Somebody. Anyway, Maya Rudolph is one of my favorite SNL performers of all time. And she fools you in this because sometimes she thinks she's just giving you this really, really romanticized. Yes, yeah, Chris O'Dowd. Maya Rudolph gives like a really, really nice, tender performance, but it's just in her back pocket to be funny. Like, it's just in her nature. And so she's really fucking funny the whole time. So having said, like, truly a fantastic comedy. It is rewatchable. It is great. In rewatching this, I liked it. I liked it a little bit less than I liked it when I saw it in the theaters, and then the first time I rewatched it, which I'm guessing was not too long after that. Let's say 2011, 2012. I would have given it a 9 then. Right now, I'm probably somewhere between a 7 and an 8. The John Hamm dickishness things didn't really age really well for me. Some of the plotty stuff that happens in these comedies, like Wedding Crashers and this, where all of a sudden it gets really serious and they try to move it along because they really want to coddle the leads who are going through their depressive moments, and they really want to be tender. And it's like, it just doesn't pace well with the rest of the movie. It's not that I don't want the character to go on that journey, but it really feels like you are kind of pulling off to the side of the road in the movie, and it just didn't fly through that moment for me, or those couple of scenes, usually about 2/3 of the way through these kinds of movies. So I will say it lost a little bit of the fun for me, but it's still, you know, one of those great rewatchable comedies of the past 10, 20 years. Do you guys agree with that, or did it lose some of its flavor for you as well?
I always feel like that with what you were saying when you were talking about King of Staten Island. I always feel that way about Judd Apatow movies. I don't dislike them at all. I like this movie a lot. I had a fine rewatch. I enjoyed myself.
Right. And this is not, just to be clear to everybody at home, this is not a Judd Apatow movie. This is a Paul Feig movie.
He produced it though, right? I thought Judd Apatow produced this. I think it's still the highest earning. Technically, it's still the highest earning Judd Apatow movie, right? Let's look that up, just so I don't feel like an asshole.
He was a producer. I just wanted to be clear that he did direct the film. But yes, he did produce.
He didn't direct it, yeah. But I still think he had. I don't know. So I know it's not his. I know it's Paul Feig's. But that symptom of so many modern comedies that you're talking about, it does kind of make rewatches more difficult. I think just because a movie like this, like a cult movie, we all remember the funny parts and we quote it, and you know, you hear people refer to it, and some scenes and some images are just imprinted in your mind, like the plane, and maybe
many a times I've sent the "it's happening" meme to people.
Yeah, it's happening. We all remember that. When she goes crazy and when she finally loses it at the engagement party.
Yeah, that's
thing,
funny. When
you know,
she's punching the heart thing.
Yeah. So outside of those things, when you're rewatching like a comedy, like I don't want to generalize and say everybody does this, but I tend to just watch performances because you already know the story, and the story is very simple. So you go into it already knowing exactly what to expect. So you kind of get on board. So you're really just hoping to find some good breadcrumbs and moments that maybe you didn't laugh at so obviously the first time. I really like Kristen Wiig's mother. I don't know. I like her tone. She goes to AA and she's not an alcoholic. I thought the way some of the more subtle things made me laugh. And then the standouts are, of course, Melissa McCarthy. I'm just so grateful that this movie brought her to us. I think overall, though, I made a comment about this a couple months ago to a friend. We were talking about Kristen Wiig. I think above all, this movie just made me I just wish she did more stuff like this. I know that's not in her control. I'm not holding her accountable to that. I don't know if anyone is to blame, but where'd she go, you guys? I thought this was such a unique leading lady, Kristen Wiig, a unique leading lady comedy performance.
Oh wait, she's coming. Wonder Woman is the Wonder Woman sequel.
But that's what she's mostly been doing, which I appreciate. I like her supporting stuff. She's always good. But when we saw her in this, I remember thinking, like, dude, there's a Barbara Streisand, a Madeline Kahn. There's a thing she could do that has been done really well before, but she's so unique. And I keep kind of waiting for her to come back to this. I know clearly she wrote this, so like she was in the driver's seat, but I don't know. I miss her. I miss her in roles like this. So it also made me kind of yearn for that.
Well, she was in Ghostbusters. She was on the team, and she was in Downsizing, which I think a lot of people thought was going to be a much bigger movie than it was. But you're right. On top of that, it's like a lot of TV series and a lot of supporting roles, some voice actor work. But yeah, there's more. I hope there's more.
What'd you think of? I'm glad you made the comment about the John Hamm stuff because, of course, we're not trying to be like the most PC show on earth, but you can't help but notice things when you're watching stuff nowadays. Totally white cast. That was one thing.
My Rudolph
John
is
Hamm
not.
stuff.
My Rudolph is not.
My Rudolph is not. She's right. She's I take that back. The Chris O'Dowd scenes making light of the things that cops do. I don't know. I just couldn't help it. I don't think they would have written a police officer nowadays into that role.
I think they could have, but there would have been more to do. He was the only cop around, you know what I mean? Like he's the only cop in town.
I mean, one of my good notes is like, "You are no longer my number 3" is the douche exit line of the decade. Like they get points for that. Like you're no longer, as he's driving off, he shouts, "You're no longer my number 3." It's like, that's a douche.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they overdouched him. They didn't need to overdouche John Hamm. You know what I mean? They could have let him act, and they just let him. They overdouced him a little bit.
I don't know if this movie was for us. Like that part.
No, you're right. I am aware of who we are talking about this movie. But again, when I saw this movie, I was like, this is one of the greatest comedies I've seen in a long time. This is gonna ball. I'm so curious to see, and like in the rewatch, does it hang with the Old School and Wedding Crashers and Dumb and Dumbers of the past 20 years of great comedies that are rewatchable, that, you know, that carry with an entire generation, right? Like, what is going to be our generation's Monty Python, our generation's Animal House? Like, you know, I was like, is this going to be up there on the list? And it still is. It still is, especially to definitely a lot of women, but it's just to a lot of people, this still is up there. And I don't mean to diminish it at all, but, you know, the same thing with like Anchorman. A lot of people don't necessarily want to watch it anymore because it's a lot of shtick, and, you know, they don't need to see it again. This might be in that world just a little tiny bit, even though it's less shticky. But, you know, it's, I don't know. I don't want to trash it because this is a really, really good movie. This is a good comedy. It's just not one where the more I see it, the more it just becomes about the gags. The plane scene, the engagement scene is fine, I guess. It's really, really funny. But as far as rewatching it a million times, the first... Is there a bridal shower and an engagement scene? I can't remember the first time when they start singing and stuff, like, it's ridiculous. It's funny a couple times, but after a while, it's not quite as funny anymore when they just keep singing "That's What Friends Are For" over each other. The fire marshal stuff, every Melissa McCarthy thing is funny, and the fire marshal stuff is really fucking funny. And I'll never forget in the theater when he pulls the gun out and she goes, "I knew it."
You mean the air marshal?
Yeah, sorry, not the fire marshal, the air marshal. Yeah. Correct. Sorry.
All right. So what do you think, Dave? Real fast before, actually, tell me yours, and then I want to ask you both this question about comedies. Go for it.
The biggest question I came away with from this is, does stealing workouts in the park actually happen? Like, is that a thing?
It's like $12.
Yeah. I mean, I found that funny that, like, I don't know. It's like, as a like a caveat here, I'm not big on cringy comedy. And this is incredibly cringy comedy. Like, they really push it to the uncomfortable, like, level. And I watched this again, and the first time I watched it, I was like, okay, that was funny. And then this time I watched it, and I was like, this was the highest grossing R-rated comedy of all time. Like, did no one else tell anyone else what it was like?
But it's the moments, I think, like, for females especially, like, there's just no female comedy like this.
That's true. I talked about this with my wife.
Gilda Radner never got this script off the ground. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but she did point out that from a female perspective, a lot of this stuff does speak to a female viewer because they've had these experiences. But here's my biggest point: 31 minutes in, I'm checking how much longer there is to go.
Wow. Yeah. I did not do that because I knew, like, the trying in the dress sequence thing was coming.
At 50 minutes, I was like, I need a beer to keep going. 50.
She pooped in the sink. She pooped in the sink. Like, come on, that's fine. When they're trying the dresses on, and they have
that scene is amazing. And like I said, I've quoted that scene. Okay, so there's 4 funny scenes to me in this movie. Her conversation with her mother, which apparently in the director's cut is even longer and gets even funnier. The dress scene, obviously, a lot of the airplane scene, and the bridal shower meltdown, to me, are the 4 funniest scenes in this movie. The biggest problem I had with this film is they introduced this character. They didn't make her even remotely likable. She's shit on from the very beginning, and they spent an hour and 40 minutes dragging the main character down to rock bottom, and they haven't really made you care about it at all in the first place, and then they fix it in 20 minutes.
It is. What I will say is a lot of people who saw this movie did care about her. That is something to think about. So maybe Kristen Wiig just gave herself that challenge and was like, people like me.
I don't know.
So
like,
it kind of made me think about...
I'm a fan of Kristen Wiig's other work, but I don't know.
It kind of made me think about Fleabag, how popular that show is now. I watched that for the first time, and I thought it was wonderful, but I had some issues with how irredeemable she was. Is that the right
word?
Yeah.
In which movie? This? Oh, fuck you. I thought she was perfect in Fleabag. I don't care how irredeemable she was.
So, yeah, I know what you mean, Dave. What else were you going to say before I
Well,
ask you
I mean,
this
it's
question?
also, like, normally I'd say the performances were great, but the script was a letdown because some of the stuff, like some of the shots just went on for too long and stuff like that. Like, they tried to milk the scene. In this case, a lot of it was improvised, a substantial portion. So it's got to be the director just letting this stuff run on and, like, in the editing room, and just letting this stuff go through, because they improvised a lot of the comedy in here and it just didn't sell.
That's so funny. So I'm still in the camp stand for this movie is really funny. This movie is a good comedy. When it came out, it like hit the world by storm, and I think it deserves that.
No, it did. And
for me, it's just,
I must say,
I'm with you in the rewatching of it. For some reason, I want new and different. This is not the nostalgia piece that I thought it was going to be, with the exception of the really funny. Even the first scene, I'm okay with Maya Rudolph because I love her. That first scene with Kristen Wiig, it's pretty subtle, but it's a fun scene when they're at the beginning when she's asking her to be her bride and they're talking about penises and how weird they look.
That's not subtle at all. They're telegraphing every joke.
It's subtle for because this movie just couldn't quite decide if it wanted to be Anchorman or if it wanted to be funny people.
So that's what I wanted to ask you guys about, because everyone, I remember hearing this when it came out. I was reading a little bit about it now. Apparently Paul Feig and Judd Apatow were really pushing for more ridiculous humor, knowing where a lot of these ladies come from: Groundlings, SNL, Second City, and Kristen Wiig and Annie Mamolo were very passionate about trying to not do that. They wanted it to be awkward,
more
cringy,
grounded,
subtle.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie. I mean, this is just a taste thing.
One of the most famous scenes in the movie is the dress scene, which was not their idea.
Right, which was not their idea. That was Judd Apatow's
also,
idea.
in saying that, I wonder what this would have been if they hadn't passed over Anne Fletcher as director.
Yeah, I'm curious, because I'm not gonna lie. When I rewatch comedies, rewatching comedies can be tough anyway. Just because what you pointed out, Jeff. Like, after you've had your laughs, you go back and you kind of just feel like there's lulls in the plot driving sections of comedies. But for me, anyway, I feel like I have an easier time watching comedies when there are larger, more absurd, not even larger, but there are more intense performances. Like, I wasn't bored when Kristen Wiig was drunk. I wasn't bored when Kristen Wiig was throwing a tantrum. I did get a little bored in her plot-driven scenes, and I did get a little bored when it was the subtle, awkward, cringy comedy. But that's a taste thing. Like, I'm not going to hold the movie to that because I just don't really like that stuff. This also came out in 2011 when everyone was trying to make TV shows that were super awkward and super let the scene go on too long, and I fucking hate that shit. So any moment like that bothers me. But
we can't say enough too. There were no female comedies at the time when this came out. Like, this paved the way for so many of the other comedies. Like,
I mean, it deserves respect for nothing for that.
What would Booksmart be without something like this? You know what I mean? Like I, as a guy, like to get men to laugh at the penises looking weird and women acting out what penises look like, that was unheard of. And we're in the 2010s at this point. And Paul Feig, just so everybody knows, because he, after this movie, went on to direct Spy and The Heat. So like Melissa McCarthy, huge movies. He directed Last Christmas in 2019, which was definitely a money play. That was fucking no. But he directed everything from an episode of Mad Men to 30 Rock, Arrested Development, Freaks and Geeks, he was a producer on too, Parks and Rec, The Office, Nurse Jackie.
Freaks and Geeks was like his show. That was his, he created that show. He was the producer
of it, with Judd, but if you look at, especially, I'm looking at The Office, even Weeds, Parks and Rec, Arrested Development, crazy characters, huge characters. This is a guy who has directed huge, crazy characters, and they wanted them. Melissa McCarthy would not have done what she did unless she really had faith and trust that a crazy, awesome, wild, kind of like a Mad TV character that has 30 minutes as opposed to 5 would work. That character would never work as the lead.
She did kind of steal every scene she was in, though, like, to her credit.
Yeah, also to her credit is, and these are masters. True, like, I'm never going to give Kristen Wiig or Maya Rudolph, I'm never going to pretend to give them like a note or anything, because they're true geniuses. Like, really, I believe Maya Rudolph can go up there on stage with anything and do a Robin Williams act. Like, she truly is that for me.
They're a bit at the Academy Awards last year.
Coming from a DC standpoint, when I heard she was cast as Cheetah in the new Wonder Woman film, I was like, go on. Yeah. It's like, go on. I'm willing to go here.
For her and Maya Rudolph too. It's just the only thing I would say. Again, this is a really, really funny, awesome, fucking awesome movie, and it's not even necessarily on them that the comedies of the past 10 years before that all did this thing where they needed to be quote unquote real or realistic. They played into the realism, and I do wish in rewatching this, which I did not think in 2011 or 12 or 13, I wish they just let go of the realism a little bit and just kept it zanier, just so that I could get through the lulls. That's it, because the highs were high. I think
one of my biggest criticisms, the only thing I remembered was the absolute zany parts, and that was what I remembered the whole movie as being, and it wasn't when I rewatched it, and I think that's why I had a negative reaction to it.
Yeah. If the people I know that went through that dress sequence, they'd be laughing about that every single time they saw each other next. They wouldn't be in these crazy crippling fights all the time. You know, it wouldn't be so difficult, you know what I mean, to have a relationship. They'd be able to joke their way through things if they were able to do that kind of behavioral, like the way they interact with each other, which I guess, you know, you could also interpret that as Kristen Wiig does take that on a little bit. Like, she doesn't escape from that. She does sit there and say, why is this friend leaving me? And that does add to her, you know, emotional journey throughout the film. But yeah,
I dug some of the emotional scenes. Don't get me wrong. I thought they were great story development, but it was like it was two different films crammed into one for me.
The one that didn't get me this time, which I was bummed by, is when Chris O'Dowd does the cake thing, which is a little weird.
Yeah.
So I feel like if they did it in 2020, she would just be like, "This is just weird that you want me to make a cake for you. Like, this is fucking weird. Like, we just slept together and you making a cake. It's weird, bro." But instead, she just got really angry about it, and it just didn't. You know what I mean? Like, those kinds of things in these comedies sometimes happen when they really need to scoot the plot along. You know what I mean? When they're sitting there and they're like, no, she needs to be mad at him. And it's like, he seems pretty perfect. What is she going to get mad about? I don't know. Maybe he makes her make a cake. For me, like, it still doesn't quite check out. But again, you know, whatever it takes to get us to that car scene with her and Rose Byrne, which I think is pretty funny. I actually thought I wasn't going to find it funny this time, but I found it kind of funny. It's stupid, it's ridiculous, but that's kind of what I tuned in for when I put Bridesmaids on. So yeah. And they're masters. So I wish they did a follow-up, which is with a totally different concept.
I mean,
same
in
cast,
saying
same
that, just to get
everybody.
slightly off topic, I did really enjoy the new Ghostbusters. Like,
oh, really?
all the comedy that was done then. I love that film. It's
Cool.
like the ending fell off the rails, but like solid work up until that point.
Mm-hmm. And I think John got me to, that's also Paul Feig, and John got me to watch Spy for a little bit, right? Didn't you watch Spy?
Apparently that's awesome.
It's really fucking fun.
Yeah.
I like Melissa McCarthy a lot. I think she's
All right.
So this is a game changer film. It is, yeah, we're not going to put it down. However, you know, sometimes you could take a pee break every now and then, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, pause it a lot. I did not enjoy it on the rewatch, but you guys did, and so that's our perspective.
Yeah, you didn't buzz us a lot. This was not this.
This was not a buzzy one.
Yeah, you, honestly, Dave, buzz us for all the women who are they just fucking hate us right now listening to this podcast. Yes, that's for you. All right. Well, we need to take a quick pee break. Thank you all so much for letting us talk about Bridesmaids to you all. We are going to come back with a really, really interesting movie. This conversation could go a million different ways. We have not talked to each other ahead of time. A movie that
we never do.
I don't even know where this conversation is going to go. The Cabin in the Woods, 2011, Chris Hemsworth. We'll leave it at that. Everybody, get a new beer. We'll see you soon. And we're back. I got my good fancy microphone back, and I apparently have been clipping the fuck out of it. Thank you, Dave.
That's a technical term I used during the break.
Term.
Yes.
So hopefully, I have made the adjustments. As John said, it does go really well with my cocaine line at the beginning.
It's okay. We can fix you. We have the technology.
We have the technology, friends. We are back. We at the end of the segment are going to pick the year of our next 3 films at the end of this segment. So stick around for sure. But we are going to talk about a film that is so fucking interesting. It is really one of a kind. It is a unique film. The Cabin in the Woods, 2011,
right.
Directed by Drew Goddard, written by Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard.
In 3 days.
Is written in 3 days, not surprising. Definitely a lot of Evil Dead, a lot of the horror, gore, slasher, horror, the whole horror genre.
Well, this was their response to having an absolute failed cinema experience. They released something that failed abysmally, so they decided to challenge themselves and write this, and they wrote it in 3 days.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So
then it was shelved because the company that produced it went bankrupt, and then eventually released.
You know, I kind of remember hearing that story. Definitely Chris Hemsworth was a big draw because this is 1 year after Thor. Same year as Thor.
He filmed this before Thor.
Oh, he filmed it before Thor? So it was around the same
the
time
studio,
we realized he was going to be
got
huge.
Thor because the studio saw him do this.
Oh shit! But they came out around because this is 2011.
This was filmed in 2009. It was released in 2011.
Oh shit! Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, good for Chris
2009
Hemsworth.
or earlier. Yeah. It was definitely earlier. Yeah.
That's what I get for doing my research. So it opens actually with great actors. Richard Jenkins and Bradley Whitford. And you could tell something's going on, but you don't really know what's going on. They're going into like a lab. It almost seems science fiction-y. And then pretty soon it cuts to 5 very unique characters who we find out to be the virgin, the jock, the stoner, the brainiac, and the whore.
Yes.
And so they are archetypes. You start hearing little driplets of like apparently the special hair and the special weed that has changed them all, so they've all become these archetypes.
I didn't even pick up on that until I rewatched it this one time, and they brought up the hair dye and what they'd done to her hair dye.
I had forgotten that. All of this is to say, the point is, it's there are so many Evil Dead throwbacks here, but it's basically anything that's in the horror or gore genre.
It's a couple of Hellraiser throwbacks as well.
I mean, so I actually kind of didn't want to do research to leave this as a discussion to see. Maybe you guys have, but to me, this is the vibe that I got. It's that why is it that we are drawn for entertainment to horror and gore? Why do we find that entertaining? Why do we find it fun that evil ancestors come up from the ground and rip our insides out? Why do we find mermen crazy? Why do we have like supernatural poltergeisty experiences? Why do we go to that and spend 2 hours in that world? Like, why do we do that as humans? And so this movie sort of brings them all to question by it's a really strange game that they're playing. It's a game. This is a game. They're watching these people, these 5 archetypes, and they're taking bets on the way that they're going to die. So it's like,
not only are they doing it there, they're doing it in like 14 other places all over the world or something like that.
Yes, that is right. Well. It's happening all over the world. That basically these things are happening in real life one at a time, so that the entire generation can have nightmares. There's a million ways to take away why they're doing this game.
Actually,
really.
There's one, they spell it right out.
I mean, like, because they have to, but...
You watched it right to the end, right?
Yeah, of course. But why... because... Okay, I don't want to give the ending away, but anyway, John, what did you think? You're being awfully coy here. What's going on? Dave's in. I feel like Dave's a fan, so I'm just curious. What are you thinking?
I love it. I mean, I thought it was great. I think the only problem with this movie is it's too short. I want more.
Interesting.
It's an hour. It's an hour and 29-minute runtime. It clocks in at 1:35 with credits, but I remember looking up and it was like almost 1:29 when it went to black, and I was like, god damn it, I forgot it was like so short. I went and saw this movie for the first time, totally not knowing what it was going to be about. I had heard some cool things, and I really liked Drew Goddard and Joss Whedon. I was not a Buffy guy, but I had heard that they had subverted this genre. I am not a crazy huge fan of slasher horror, but I have definitely watched most of those movies, and I've had fun along the way. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I like dark, fucked up shit. I'm not as into gore. So I thought this was going to be a straight up The Hills Have Eyes, Cabin in the Woods, gore kind of thing, which I wasn't super excited about. So I was so pleasantly surprised. I think they're obviously playing with what you're talking about, that this fascination everyone has with death and mortality, and the way that our whole lives, everyone has had this experience, right? Where it doesn't matter, if it's you or if it's your friend. I think we've observed in ourselves and others, some people react to horror movies with straight up fear and they still enjoy watching them. And some people react laughing at them and they still enjoy watching them. Yeah. The people who enjoy watching horror movies and thrillers like to be scared. And it's just the ways that we react to them differently. So that's why this movie is so genius, is that they gave us a vehicle of every archetype you have ever seen in any of these kinds of movies. And they gave you total permission to be in on it. So they know you were already in on it with every one of those classics from the 80s. We know what Jason's going to do. We know when that virgin couple starts fucking, somebody's going to die. But this time,
it's the Scream rules. They use the Scream rules, the horror movie rules. It's like, yeah, you have sex, you die.
And they gave us those two amazing surrogates. They eventually became our surrogates. There's technically like 3 in there, I guess, including the stoner. But Bradley Whitford and Richard Jenkins, when you get to finally see what's happening, you're in on it. So you get to, part of you starts to feel kind of fucked up because you're kind of taking the bets that they're giving out, and you're kind of thinking, oh my God, how are they going to kill him? I don't know about you, but I was actually with them. I'm always a little bit let down that it's the fucking zombies. It's like, damn it. I kind of want to see something else fucking kill this young group of kids. So I had a blast again.
Just quickly, like, did you pause the board and have a look at what's on that board?
I definitely looked at some of it.
There are so many throwaways. Like Jeff said, there's some Evil Dead throwaways. Like they reference the Deadites and angry molesting trees. Mm-hmm. But there's one name on the board that's like just Kevin. It just says Kevin. Like, what the fuck is Kevin?
It's really funny. Is that
from We Need to Talk About Kevin? Do you think that's what that's from?
I don't know. I
think, you know what else they do really interestingly is that the thing that got me the most, and it's funny coming up off of Bridesmaids, is to talk about the character archetypes that are always in these movies. Why is it that the one thing that caught me when I saw it in the movie theater, and then it caught me again, even though I knew what the movie was about, it caught me again watching it this time, is why is the stoner friends with them? Why are they friends with the stoner? They don't seem to have anything. They don't seem to be friends with each other. These people don't. It seems like they were thrown together. And so this is commenting on that, where that's always in the for some reason, the original horror movies, they use these archetypes really effectively, I guess you could say. But it's funny, especially for the females, because there's never a smart female, right? So they have the virgin in this case sort of becomes the bookworm, and she sort of is the lead of the film, I guess you could argue. She has the most point of view from the beginning to the end. She is aware of this. And same thing with the whore. She's like, she's not a whore. And she's like, they call her the virgin, and she doesn't even really feel like the virgin. You know, it's like, why are women especially placed in these archetypes to be walked all over and stomped all over? And then it's almost like, because it's as if the filmmakers are like, I don't know either. Like, why is this the way that women were written in these? Is it just that we wanted to see attractive women die, like in a weird way? Like, do they want to bait and switch the audience, where there's always a really attractive girl, just as she starts to take her clothes off, she dies. So they do that in this movie, and in a way, there's a lot of commentary. I don't know how much the writers wanted to throw at the audience and say, why is it you would rather see the 15th time that an attractive person who is about to have sex and is about to expose herself gets eaten by a zombie? You would rather see that for the 15th iteration than see the first time that a smart, intelligent girl beats the zombies, right? Like, why? What is it about us as the audience watching it that we need these things? Well, I think they take that on really well in the film.
I mean, I think there was a little homage from them. They grew up through that generation where it was a familiar trope over and over again. It was like there was always the last girl. And there was always, if you have sex, you die, and all those rules. And I feel like they took everything out of like the 80s and 90s, like horror films, and made that built that into a mythology that serves the purpose of this film. And in that actually drew attention to it and ridiculed it.
Yeah,
which I think,
what happens? I mean, again, spoilers. There are spoilers in here, so. What happens at the end of this film? Are they actually saying, if you mess with the formula, the whole world will change? Like, the whole world just gets destroyed at the very last moment of this movie. And it kind of makes me think about I am always a bigger fan of disturbing over slasher gore. I think disturbing doesn't play by the same kinds of archetypes and rules. It's less predictable.
It almost has to be unique in order to be disturbing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it has to break that form because it's going to defy expectations. So I think one reason slasher films are so, so successful, and why people will often take a chance on going to see some movie with a horror movie with no stars they've heard of and no director they've heard of, because people can count on the film familiarity of the formula. So I think obviously they were just messing with that the entire time. But again, it didn't really land for me until the very end, where I realized they were basically saying, fuck you. This is what happens when you mess with it. And you're so lazy that you think you know how this movie is going to end. You're such a lazy audience member, because we've all seen these movies before.
Yeah.
So when that fucking hand comes out at the very end, and you realize they just destroyed the world. They just ended the world by changing the formula.
Someone in Q&A after they screened this asked, was there going to be a sequel? It's like, you fucking idiot.
This is the end.
The director was like, did you just watch the movie? Like,
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
like, I mean, the message I took away from this is like, when you've sunk so low that an individual life doesn't matter, you deserve to be slaughtered by the old gods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you too. And even in me watching the movie, why did I forget that there was going to be the twist? There was like a little bit of it. There's a little bit of a twist,
and essentially, like when it comes down to it, they make what it could be classified as a very, very fucking selfish decision, but everyone's behind them,
right?
Because you've gone on their journey, you've seen what they've been through, and it's like, if that's what it takes to keep this going, and we're worth it.
Yeah, I mean, don't you feel like they were trying to make you feel twisted about why you like watching these kinds of movies?
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
That's definitely a Joss Whedon trademark. He likes to take these genres and like turn them on their heads and like throw it right back in your face.
Right.
Yeah,
we should note.
Very big on
we should note. Let's be realistic to where we are right now. Joss Whedon stuff is coming out about his female characters and what he said to females on set, and obviously we don't know anything about this.
What he said to males on set as well.
And we can't, like, we're not on any of these sets, so we can't speak to any of that. But we could note
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, so we can note that we are giving him a lot of praise right here, even though maybe he has overstepped in other ways that may come out in the future. So we apologize if that happens to us. But
yeah, I mean, this is a developing thing. If he turns out to be a dick, we'll call him out for it. Absolutely,
it's totally not our fault. We didn't know he was a dick. We know that there are some rumors that he's not great. We don't know he's a dick. That's where we are right now. But for this particular film, I think he takes on the conversations really, really well. I don't know how he treated the actors on set, to be honest with you.
Although, in saying that, for Justice League, he's a dick.
Wait, didn't he come in when Zack Snyder... Wait, I thought he was good.
Yeah, he came in and reshot a lot of that film. Like, we're getting the Snyder Cut. Just wait and see.
But didn't Zack Snyder have to leave because of family things? Like, so
yes,
wasn't
he did.
Actually...
He did.
So Joss Whedon maybe not so bad in that situation.
Yeah, no, that's coming out that it was so bad.
Okay. Yeah. Great. All right. So Joss might have to take a year or two off, but Buffy's awesome.
I don't know how that's going. The guy that played Cyborg apparently had some really big reservations about the process that they went through. So, we'll get back to that at some point.
We're being kind to the film in the sense that we're not overstepping like what
I love
happens
this film.
in the movie.
Like, it's a great film.
So I like that we're doing that to our audience, because I would highly recommend everybody try to find a way to see it again. Because again, to John's point, he thought it was too short. Hour and a half. I'm just not going to complain that it's too short, unless it's I don't know. Go watch it. Hour and a half. We all know you watched 10 episodes of RuPaul. You know, he had a new episode this week. I watched it. It was great. So you can watch 10 episodes of television. You can watch an hour and a half movie.
I'm gonna jump in here with some thoughts. I accidentally started this in audio description mode on Amazon. I recommend turning it on.
Why did that happen?
Yeah, I don't know,
happened
but
to me
like,
too.
Was it just you, or was the audio description for the Lionsgate logo fucking hilarious?
Oh, the whole opening was.
I watch it with CC.
Yeah, no, yeah. Like, turn on the audio description just for the Lionsgate logo. It's worth it. The opening scene is like a deliberate attempt to misdirect the audience. Like, from the get go, you don't like it. It turns on its head straight away, and it's like, we're doing this now. We're doing this, and the audience doesn't really get a comfortable spit. I love the movie's humor in all its aspects the whole way through. Right. I'm a big fan of the way like Joss and Drew really wrote it to turn things on the head and like basically take the familiar genres and kind of poke fun at them.
Yeah, and let's just big picture. Let's tip our hats to both of them for. I know this was not the first thing Joss did by any means, but I feel like both of them have carved out subversive careers, preying on people who think I love this kind of genre, and then they go in and they see something really unique, Bad Times at the El Royale. Like I thought that made room
Fun
for
movie.
it.
Fun.
What Joss and what both of them have done in their Marvel stuff, I feel like has been more interesting than the traditional archetypes of the way you would tell those stories. So I don't know. It's just one of those examples where part of me has a lot of respect for them just because they have taken something that is extremely accessible and turned it just enough with a lot of humor so that everyone can enjoy themselves. So they're fucking rich.
Almost like
Good for them.
it's almost like they pulled up the carpet and showed you the cogs of the machine.
Mm-hmm.
Quite literally. It's like, here's how all this works.
Mm-hmm.
And shows you like what goes on underneath. but it has some great one-liners, some messy kills in it. Like if you're a fan of the gore, you get a little bit of that. Chris Hemsworth's hero moment.
Yeah, I laughed really hard at that in the
theater.
theater.
It's the best exit of a film I've ever seen.
Yeah.
What does he say? Make sure you give it all you've got. I always do.
Yeah. I mean, effects-wise, for what was technically a low-budget film in its time, they did an amazing job. When those, oh my god, my favorite scene in the movie, when those elevator doors open and hell just fucking erupts.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like, I often reference this in conversations, and a similar thing happened in season 5, I believe it was, of Buffy, where there was an underground compound and they let all the monsters out, and the monsters are just like throwing people everywhere, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna punch you in the face and throw you. And I feel like this is what he wanted to do, but he couldn't because it's fucking network television. You can't show that shit on TV. So he kind of let the dogs out on this one. It's like, yeah, we're gonna have carnage. There's gonna be blood everywhere. There's gonna be a fucking robot with a saw blade. There's gonna be I
love the mermaid callback.
The merman is the mermaid gag just lasts the whole movie.
Fun.
Yeah.
Just having Richard Jenkins and Bradley Whitford around. It's good perspective because they were very, very similar, but also yin and yanged enough. For instance, when you finally see the quote unquote whore become promiscuous, let's say, you have Bradley Whitford kind of just be like, score, like this is what we were waiting for and we got it. And then Richard Jenkins just kind of like shrugs and moves on to the next scene. He's kind of like, you know what? I know this is great, but this is fucking, we got to move on. And it's very subtle. It's like, I don't know why they said yes to this film because they are way too overqualified to be here. But at the same time, I'm really grateful that them and Sigourney Weaver came in, and it's like they did. Well,
apparently she was just happy to be appear in a movie with a werewolf. Like her prerequisite was, I'm glad I was in a movie with a werewolf finally.
As opposed to an alien, I guess.
Yeah, right. I guess. I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, great film.
Yeah, loved it. Big favorite of this one.
Everybody, give it another watch and tell us what you think. It's so interesting. The one trope they stayed away from is person of color trope from Scream. They stayed away from it, and maybe, who knows? Maybe they could have played with that a little bit in this if that movie came out now. But pretty. Anyway, Dave.
Yes.
Well, do they die first? Is that part of the Scream? Anyway, I'm glad they, it would have been interesting to see if they try to take that on. Dave, we're going to get another year here.
Oh, it's time. All right.
It's time.
Let's generate a year.
Not from
for
the
next
2000s.
week.
Not for the last one's been 2009, 2011. Let's get
oh
new...
my God, please not from 2000 something. Okay, so we're going to hit the button and...
Jesus. Did a spaceship just land? What the fuck?
Yeah, it did. It's 1989.
Oh, shit.
1989.
All right.
Oh, that's going to be a good one.
I feel like
That's
there was a
gonna be an
lot
interesting
of
one.
year.
Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting one.
If you talk about My Left Foot, John and I there's not enough time on this podcast.
There is not. You can do your own podcast if we're doing My Left Foot. Like, I went and saw that at its premiere, actually, to be honest.
Wait, you did?
Yeah.
And you didn't like it?
Wait, really?
Yeah. Not here, but in Australia. But yeah.
Shit.
You didn't like it?
No, I loved it. It was great.
Oh, good. I thought
Yeah.
you said like...
And so
All right,
now
we're
we've
gonna-
ruined the podcast. We can't choose that.
No, we can't choose it.
That
We
is
might have to choose
awesome.
it anyway.
Okay.
We might be doing it.
I mean, you're talking about Born on the 4th of July was this year, if I remember correctly. You've got Vietnam. Good Morning Vietnam maybe was this year. I can't remember.
Was it
was
Mississippi
it?
Burning?
Is it? You know what? Fuck, John. You just do the right thing.
Do the right
We'll
thing.
we'll ponder this and we'll come back.
All right. I'm so excited. We'll talk about this soon. No, it was Dead Poets. It was not Good Morning Vietnam. It was Dead Poets. Apologies. Anyway, we will talk about this after we pee. One more beer. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And we're back.
We are
Back.
Here we go.
Guys,
All right.
we only had 2 buzzes during Cabin in the Woods. That is fucked up.
Yeah, that is not what people tune in for. You're right.
Guys,
One of
I
our
hate
weaker
everything about
segments,
you.
you guys. Yeah,
Go
we really
fuck
didn't-
yourselves. Why do
didn't
people
drop
even
that part,
bother
did
to
we?
listen?
The segment is like the movie is way better than the segment.
Fuck the Cabin in the Woods.
Watch that.
So, friends, right before the break, we talked about how our next podcast is going to be about films of the year 1989. A lot of fantastic films in the
Ooh,
year
yeah,
1989. We almost did animated films, which would have been Little Mermaid, Little Nemo, and
All dogs
John,
go
I
to
mean,
heaven.
For you, this was like 5 seconds. For us, this was like
I wanted it
30-minute
so bad.
discussion.
All Dogs Go to Heaven, The Little Mermaid, aka the beginning of the Renaissance of Disney, and Little Nemo, which is fucking awesome. We did not go that route.
That would have been fun. We should do some animated films at some point.
If you want to know what we
Yes.
went with, wait until the end of this segment. But we have to get back. This is our redemption segment. These are the films that need a
Yes.
little bit of love. Reminder: this
was
is a
it? Was
this is
it
a
really
positive.
that
Yeah,
bad?
was it
Was
really
it
that
really
bad? This is a positive film podcast. We only do
what-
positive
what
criticism.
What film were we saying? Was it really that bad?
So if
Green
you
Hornet?
followed us last week, we could not remember if it was the Green Hornet or the Green Lantern. Because in
Seth
the
Rogen
same
in tights,
year,
right?
Because we blocked them both out.
in the same year, Seth Rogen
the same
and
year.
Ryan Reynolds decide is the same fucking year. It's so confusing. The 2 green heroes.
I'll tell you, Green Hornet is a movie I want to put on when I want to go to sleep because I'm like out in the first 15 minutes.
Guys, this movie was written by Greg Berlanti, who you may know for producing The Flash and Supergirl and Arrow.
First.
And you know what? After the Green Lantern, he probably said, you know what? TV's fine. So this has a 5.5 on IMDb. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a fantastic score of...
Like
Oh, this is going to be
20
bad.
something,
This is
right?
going to be so bad.
What
like
the fuck, Nate?
25
26.
Yeah, 26. Yeah.
20. Oh, wow.
Here's the
I love to
description.
hate the DC.
Here's the description on IMDb. Remember, this is Ryan Reynolds. Reckless test pilot Hal Jordan is granted an alien ring, like an actual ring that you wear on your finger, that bestows him with otherworldly powers that inducts him into an intergalactic police force, the Green Lantern Corps. Actually, to be honest with you guys, I didn't even know that's what the movie was about.
Defund,
I thought it was
defund the
about
Green
something-
Lightnings.
Dude, seriously, like that is the biggest problem.
Somewhere
that
when
they
Ryan
ran
Reynolds came
with
into the
this film.
movie, so they do the open where it's like all aliens and some shit, and they just like say what the movie's about, and then by the time Ryan Reynolds came into the movie, I like paused it and I said, "Am I gonna have to rewatch that at the end of the movie? Because I have no idea what they just talked about."
No, they say it again.
They say it again. Yes, exactly. And then I was like, oh, I don't need to do this again. And then they do the origin story again in the middle of the movie. It's fucking awesome. It's hilarious. Honestly, this movie would just be forgotten and everybody would move on with their life if it wasn't the movie where Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively met each other. And I feel like now they're like, Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool, and Blake Lively. That's so interesting. How did they meet? Oh, they met on that 2011 movie, one of the Green movies. They met. And so then people have to go back and relive Peter Sarsgaard being slowly turned into Megamind or something.
Okay,
Anyway.
just to say, like Peter Sarsgaard
It's awesome.
as Hector Hammond was my favorite in this movie.
Yeah.
He put in a solid performance that he rehearsed, and I felt like his performance was really, really
Wait,
good. Like
are
he
you
researched it and everything.
Are you complimenting him for rehersing? This is a guy who just got paid
like
millions
he
of dollars to do a
rehearsed-
movie, and
I
he
meant
did
to-
his homework.
I meant
Oh
to
my
say researched,
God.
but yeah.
He might have even had a coach He might have been an
Sorry,
acting coach.
I'm used to working with you guys where you just turn up and do it. You know, it's like,
I just say, Dave, make me look good. All right, Ryan Reynolds. He's a test pilot who apparently has daddy issues. Comes up a lot in these movies. Dad was also a pilot. Was chosen, because you have to be chosen. That's apparently really important in this movie. You have to be chosen to be a lantern, which is about as cool as it sounds. Which is
I'm gonna buzz Jeff because there's a derogatory tone going on. He hasn't said anything.
Own your
over the top of
derogatory tone. Just talk shit about it if you want to talk shit about it.
No, you know, I didn't hate the movie. But the reason I didn't hate the movie is because the premise is so dumb that when you start just doing it, it's like, all right, well, this is cool.
Did you enjoy
Ryan
watching
Reynolds
it?
is a test pilot. Did I enjoy watching it? Let's see. I mean, if I had recommended it on vacation for 10 people and I was responsible for the entertainment value, I would have said, it's okay, we can change it. It's fine.
You
it's
might
fine.
have been kicked out of the house. Yeah.
But I watched this by myself. And what I thought is, if somebody else said, hey, I really want to see this movie, and we watched it, I'd be like, okay, it's my choice next, but that was fine.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it.
I know what you mean. It's the same problem that I have with all those DC characters, which I'm not going to rant about it because I know I've said it before on this podcast. I just don't think they're great characters. Batman is just so much better than the rest of the characters. And I know it's Ryan Reynolds, so I know they weren't trying to do it like super dark and sincere, but it wasn't Deadpool, was it?
Are you basing Batman off the stuff you've seen in the movies? Or are you basing this off the comic book history of these
the comic book,
the
really popular cartoon, and the movies.
They do have a really, really rich history in the Green Lantern.
I know they do. I mean, but we can't assume that, can we? I think one reason why superhero movies succeed.
No, I'm saying this movie did it at a service, that's for sure. But like, there is a very well rich history that's been done in other movies.
In what movies?
The animated films.
Nobody's seen those. Nobody has seen the Green Lantern animated films. Nobody's
Maybe
fucking seen those movies, dude. I'm just saying, like the movies that succeed.
We were supposed to get one this year.
The superhero movies that succeed are the ones that don't rely on that. And a lot of times the ones we've ended up praising on this podcast and just in our regular lives end up doing something that was either elevating what they did in the cartoon shows or the comic books, or they turn it into the graphic novel version that's a little bit more heightened or accessible or sincere. So I don't know. I just, especially knowing what he eventually did with Deadpool, one, it just felt like he's in the wrong universe. Like, I think he was just miscast. Like, I kind of
he even poked fun at it himself.
Yeah, I mean, as he should, because like there are a lot of lines that when the first, I can't remember his name, but whatever the alien is that dies and gives him the ring, and Ryan is trying to play that death scene so sincere. And I remember saying the line in my head. It was like, no, please don't go. Oh shit, you're gone. Or something like that. And I remember thinking, I bet when they wrote that for Ryan Reynolds, they thought, surely he's going to make this funny. And he just didn't try to make it funny. So it felt like I was watching like 3 different movies. It felt like no one was on the same page. It wasn't offensive enough to make you hate it, but like, what's worse, to make you not even give a shit about something? like none of us even cared enough about this to really be upset by it. It was just, it happened. We watched it. It was fine. It's okay. It's not terrible.
Right. I mean, Dave, if you were in post-production and you were editing this film together, would you sit there and say, I don't know, there's only so much I could do? Because it was fun.
It's funny you should mention that. Do you want me to get started on my tirade?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. Yeah.
Did you like it?
No. Well, actually, I did. And I didn't. I have a very, very complex love-hate relationship with this movie. And the reason I have a love-hate relationship is because I did some research into what actually went on behind the scenes on this shit. And like I said, Peter Sarsgaard puts in a great performance as Hector Hammond. He's a highlight. They created an epic CGI universe, which at the time was a phenomenal use of technology, so they get respect for that. But like, even Ryan Reynolds hated this movie and wanted it to fail so he didn't have to do a sequel because of the experience on set.
What was it like on
with
set?
Martin Campbell
So-
with the direct? Like what?
There are like when I was watching it, I'm like, there are massive jumps where they just advance the character development and they don't show it. I'm like, was that editing? Was it the shooting? Like, was it a script or what? And I hunted down the script, the original script for Green Lantern, and it's nothing like the movie. It's completely different to the movie. So picture this: your director wants Bradley Cooper. Straight up. He wanted Bradley Cooper. He was not averse, like he didn't want anyone else. He wanted Bradley Cooper, who's riding high from The Hangover Parts 1 and 2 at this point. The studio refused to even make an offer and insists on putting Ryan Reynolds in the role, who at this time his biggest hit was arguably Van Wilder 9 years before. So straight away he got resentment on set from the director, who supposedly gave Ryan Reynolds such a hard time. He wanted the movie to bomb, so there was no chance of a sequel. And add to that the fact that your script is constantly changing and it was gratuitously rewritten from being a space opera cop film to a generic superhero film that tries to please fans and a new audience and somehow manages to confuse both. And they didn't even have a shooting script until halfway through the shoot.
What?
Like, the script wasn't finished till halfway through the shoot. They were working with whatever they got that day at some point, apparently. And then the studio at that point panics and tries to recut the movie themselves without the director and make your third act reveal the big bad of the movie. So Parallax was supposed to be a reveal at the end where he turns up and goes, "You failed me." That was supposed to be the big reveal of Parallax, but they turned it right around, cut it to pieces, and made it the big like the big bad of the film from the beginning. So all this was done by the Warner Studios, and they cut out all the scenes that set up half of the storylines and like the emotions that these people have. And then like the original screenplay, like I said, is out there. It opens with a VO where Earth already knew about the Green Lanterns and a scene between young Hal and his dad as they're prepping for the test flight that kills his father, thus explaining his attitude throughout the movie. Like the screenplay from from where I'm at, and I haven't read all of it yet, but it is different to the movie we saw.
Wow.
I mean, it's
So,
definitely heavy on the
that,
daddy issues.
I'll cut it some slack, but like apparently, and this is a common thing with like the early DC stuff, there was a lot of interference.
This
But
is
then,
not uncommon with these kinds of movies, right? It's not
yeah.
even just the DC films, but just in all superhero movies, but especially DC, there is a lot of interference.
Yeah, and then you get to the things that they introduced, and so like I'm not saying this is an excuse, but like that was a shit show, obviously, to work through, and I'm sure it wasn't pleasant for Ryan working on that. And then you get to the changes they made, where it's like, okay, let's go to the story elements that they have included. Okay, so the photo of his father in the plane, the thing that causes my PTSD. You know what? Let's keep that in the cockpit right next to me. I'm going to keep a photo of my dead dad that I have PTSD about dying in the cockpit of my plane next to me. Why? What the fuck are you doing?
I mean, I would love to see,
because it was in the movie Independence Day where he keeps his family when he goes and dies.
I'd love to see all the footage though, because there were a lot of times where I felt like it was an editing issue. Like, there's no way that was the only coverage they had. It was literally just the storytelling. Like the idea, if I were to pitch that scene to you,
massive swaths out of this thing.
If I were to pitch that scene to you, though, it's not a bad idea that he starts experiencing some PTSD as he's going down after making a crazy decision. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
That lives in movies.
But he experienced the PTSD because he saw a photo of his dad in the cockpit.
But see, even that doesn't bother me. It's the way they show him the photo, and then it just immediately. There were a lot of connecting the dots,
and then that cuts to a flashback.
When he leaves
basically
the planet.
they took the stuff that used to be in linear and put it as flashbacks and put it as they cut it to pieces. Apparently, it felt like that. I am going to finish reading this because I bagged this movie for a long time, and I feel like it didn't get its due when it was being made.
Because nobody cares about that. Everybody, I mean, it's the final product medium, That's
yeah,
unfortunate.
It's like, what will get bums on seats and what will get dollars. But when you put things like there's some great sequences from the training to villain development and stuff like that, and then they just go and fuck it up straight after with the helicopter crash sequence where the helicopter's like 2 seconds behind this guy and he's like diving out of frame in front of it, and it's like, no, you haven't dived out of the way of this helicopter, you're going to die. But he didn't die.
I think the one interesting thing that's interesting for me is so these kinds of movies have to be accessible to people who don't know the lore, who don't know the comic or whatever, wherever it comes from.
Which would be great.
I didn't know who yeah, go ahead.
They tried to do that for people. Like, they tried to make a movie that pleased both the people who don't know the lore and the fans, and managed to fuck it up for both of them.
I mean, they certainly did not make it interesting, fun, let's just say accessible, but it just why would I want, if I didn't know anything, which I didn't, they had to explain to me what the lanterns were. They didn't make it sound cool or interesting at all. Like, they didn't even try to rope me in if I didn't know anything. So if you knew a lot and you were disappointed because they fell up short, honestly, I don't even know what to say to you, because I didn't. Yeah.
No, in this movie, in this movie, less would have been more. Like, they shouldn't have shown as much as they did. They should have pulled it right back.
I felt like they couldn't decide if they wanted it to be about the lanterns or about just Ryan Reynolds. Let's just put Ryan Reynolds, and this is the scenario. The scenario is the lanterns, but that's not really what the movie's about. And so they toggled in between really poorly.
No, you're right. It was a point of view. It was a point of view issue for me. I wanted to discover with him, and I felt like they were just showing me the story, so I didn't really have anybody's perspective.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds very pretentious filmmakery, but like, if you don't, we're asking a lot of audience members to get on board with superhero stories. Like, you're already asking them to take on a lot. So if you don't have the crutch, which I'm not saying that in a negative way, of humor that Marvel uses geniusly, which DC doesn't. They don't use it the same way. There's some comedic relief, but they don't use humor in the same way. If you don't have that, then it's a taller order to get an audience who's never heard of Green Lantern, which most people hadn't. I mean, I believe you, Dave. I'm sure there's a lot of good animated movies, but I had never heard anything about this character outside of Justice League.
Way better than this film. Yeah.
Let alone cared about them.
So how do you care? Yeah. And I mean, and I don't want to pick on her too much, but I didn't think she was cast very well. I don't even dislike her as an actor by any means, but I didn't buy them. I didn't buy her in that role. I didn't like them in their chemistry. Yeah. I'm glad they're happy in real life, but it just didn't work for me. Every time they were in a scene together, sure. Every time they were in a scene together, I was like, I just don't. God, this is not any better than the rest of the movie.
I'm not even done, man. Like we get
go. No. I'm sorry. We keep interrupting.
We get to the end, and it's like the big bad turns up, and like it's the big bad that's supposed to be the third act reveal, and it's this enormous fucking cloud thing, and it's the villain Parallax, and Hal Jordan, who's the most amazing human ever, single-handedly. After going to the Green Lanterns and asking for help, and them going, we might help you, and then, oh, no, wait, no, we're not gonna. Like, they don't even cover that bit. He just turns up and has to fight it single-handedly. Defeats a fear-infused immortal guardian of the universe on his second fucking day at work.
Yeah.
Yeah, another rushed origin story. We talked a lot about these in our franchise face-off. Another rushed origin story. He gets the superpowers so quick, and then all of a sudden he's a master at using them.
Well, also, like, I read another article when I was researching this. And it's like... They were basically, it's like a classic example of what happens when you want your character to not do anything through the movie because they're just pussing out the whole time. And it's like he doesn't do anything. I'm scared to do this. I'm scared to do that. I quit. I'm scared to do this. I'm scared to do that. I'm gonna use my powers a little bit. I'm scared. Like, he did nothing until the end.
I know.
And all of a sudden single-handedly defeated one of the most powerful villains in the DC universe.
I hate to compare it to. It's easy. I don't think it's wrong to compare it to Batman, just because it is still the best DC movie ever made, and it's the exact same premise in the sense that you have to overcome your fear of the thing that is in your way, your major impediment that is tied to some kind of intense PTSD. It's the exact same story. So I kept thinking in the training sequence in the first half of this movie, why did it work in Begins? And it didn't work here.
Because he quit.
More time passed. That literally happened in less than one day. His entire initiation and training sequence and flying back to Earth happened in like 2 hours. So there was there was nothing for us to hold on to. We didn't get to watch him
he went,
process
no, I can't
anything.
do this. I quit and pissed off back to Earth.
And then he just makes a decision.
Christian
change
Bale
his
did not
mind.
do that.
Yeah, I mean, so is it time? I think time had a large part of it, but again, where do you get time from? Where does pace come from? It comes from the way they make it flow. I didn't even need to be sure that he was there for days and days and days training, but I did need to feel that something had happened to him. And I didn't feel like anything had happened to him the entire movie. So when he made his decision to change his mind, I felt like it was totally intellectual. And once again, I felt like they were just telling me something because I was not with him. I was so far away from his journey. I don't know.
It was
What if
like
in Batman Begins?
the exposition in this came across as, here's what you've missed.
What if in Batman Begins, when he was up in the mountains with Liam Neeson, he just went within the first day, you know what, this sucks, I'm going home.
Yeah, nah, fuck it, I'm going to the pub. Yeah, no.
And then Liam Neeson went, it's okay, you who've been training him, you're being too hard. You should take the rest of the day off.
Also, I'm gonna pick on DC just a moment more. Batman, I think another reason why that character works a lot better is because you discover and develop the vigilante archetype with Batman. They tell you the Green Lanterns are the most powerful space force in the universe. Like, that is a tall fucking order. So if you don't get on board with your protagonist to meet that order, then it's impossible. You'll never be able to catch up to that level of responsibility. So what did they do? They used sarcasm. They tried to mock it. How many times did he make a comment about, they're the most responsible? That's not me, right? I'm not responsible. It's like, come on, dude. I don't know. It's just not doing yourself any favors.
I know fear. Wait,
Well,
John,
I mean, they're big on fear, and that brings me to my final point.
Okay, sorry, dude.
Mark's strongest Sinestro. Solid character development, or character delivery, I want to say, not so much character development, which was not his fault.
Yeah.
He's a good actor.
Did you watched it through the after credit scene, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there's an after credit scene where he literally is like standing there and he pops the bubble and he grabs the yellow ring and he puts the ring on and becomes a yellow lantern.
Yeah.
Fuck off. That is a massive story arc. Okay, this guy is discovered, like, basically becoming an overbearing ruler of his own people on his planet. He decides that he's what's best for them. He gets banished to an antimatter universe. He discovers the villains who are the enemies of the Green Lantern. That's where he discovers the fear. That's where he finally turns to the fear side. He forms a Sinestro Corps. Like, there's a whole fucking mythology there. And they put it in a 30-second fucking clip halfway through the credits so that they could justify a fucking sequel they were never going to get. Fuck you.
Dave, I know Green Lanterns are cool, but you know what's even cooler? Different colored lanterns.
Yeah. Boo, dude.
Okay,
boo.
don't get me started.
Sweet, right?
You have white lanterns, you have red lanterns, you have orange lanterns, yellow lanterns, green lanterns, blue lanterns, indigo lanterns, and violet lanterns.
What?
Like, yeah.
It was red and yellow and green and
It's the
indigo
entire
and white.
spectrum. Their entire spectrum. So don't even fucking get me started. Like, Carol Ferris actually becomes Star Sapphire, which is a member of the Violet Lanterns.
It is really
At
interesting,
one
though,
point.
isn't it? Because Jeff, you pointed out
Carol-
earlier. Greg
Yeah.
Berlanti did some amazing work with the Flash. I don't know if it was just because there was more, room to stretch and to really take your time. And
I think
Grant
so.
Gustin's really great in it. The actors are really good, but like, that show is really well done. It's one of the better DC productions I think that are out there. Because I know I keep talking about Batman, but I know Chris Nolan stands alone.
I feel like
Chris
they
Nolan.
don't interfere as much anymore because they kind of learned when they let Patty go with Wonder Woman. And she took it and fucking ran with it and created a $1 billion movie.
Right.
And they were like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe we should let these people just do what they want.
Yeah.
Because they're fucking right.
Yeah. I mean, is that what it is?
Yeah,
This is
I
just
don't
a
know.
classic-
Maybe with the Flash they had a script.
I mean,
don't
also
know.
with the Flash, like you had a character you cared, a whole bunch of characters you cared about from the beginning, as well. They nailed that. Like,
Dave, I think you're right, dude. I think you're right. I think this was a classic problem of studios not trusting the people they hired to do their job.
Yeah.
Because even hearing you say that, I'm not gonna lie. Bradley Cooper would have been better in this part than Ryan Reynolds. I'm not hating on Ryan Reynolds. This has nothing to do with
I like
Ryan Reynolds. But I think that's a good choice. I think Bradley Cooper would have been a better choice. I understand why he wanted him.
You've seen the after credits scene, right, where he goes in Deadpool 2, where he goes back in time?
And
he blows his own head off instead of he blows his own head off to stop him from doing the Green Lantern movie. And he's like, "You're welcome, Canada."
Yeah.
So yeah, no, he gets it.
Too many problems. Because even though I know what you're saying about I think you made a comment, Jeff, about how these studios sometimes get in the way. But I think one thing that Kevin Feige has done so well is he has delegated out to directors and producers that he trusts, and he lets them fucking do their job. And all their movies, he trusts that they know what they're doing and that they're going to work in the world that he's creating. I have never felt that way about DC. They always feel clunky and disconnected. They don't, which would be fine if you actually just owned that and let them do that. But you can't step in and recut the movie.
It's like that until you got to Wonder Woman and Aquaman, in my opinion. Those two were like kind of a free reign sort of thing.
Well, and DC. I mean, and Batman, right? Those are three auteurs.
Yeah.
Those are all really powerful directors who know what the fuck they're doing.
But just bringing it back to Green Lantern for a second. Taika Waititi.
Oh, yeah. Waititi. What the fuck? I forgot about him.
How do you fuck up a movie with that cast in it?
You know what? Yeah, you also had Jeffrey Rush in this movie.
I'm not gonna hate.
Jeffrey Rush was brought on board. Jeffrey Rush was brought on board like 9 weeks before the film went to screens.
Just as a voiceover.
Like, I didn't even know that apparently
was he was.
It's just the voiceover, basically. Yeah,
but they were brought on board like 9 weeks or something before the film actually went to cinemas. So
maybe this is why Taika. Maybe this is why Taika ended up making a really good Hulk movie, because he was like, "This is what you don't do."
Hulk?
Oh yeah, I always think of that as Hulk because Hulk's like the other lead in that movie, Ragnarok.
Yeah, Thor.
Right?
You mean Thor, John?
Even Taika was not that funny in this movie, right? I was like, oh, good, Taika Waititi's in this movie. I forgot about this character.
Yeah. No, he played a solid dramatic role. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it could have been anybody. We all forgot he was in it, so let's not give him too much praise.
Like there were some good things in there. Like there were some good things, and then it just skipped some stuff and assumed you knew some stuff, and like I feel like if they hadn't have interfered, I would have liked to have seen the cut we might have actually got.
Yes, right. This was already 2 hours, though, wasn't it? I don't know what else.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is, but it might have been 2 hours of different stuff.
I guess so. Well, I'm not going to recommend. I don't think you need to. I'm not going to get behind this. You do not need to see this movie, folks. I'm sorry.
It's on HBO. HBO. Which, by the way, I just found out that
wait for the one that's coming out next year.
HBO Go is not going to be available on my iPad anymore after July 31st. I'm really fucking pissed about that. HBO Max.
You have to have HBO Max. Yeah.
What?
I have to have HBO Max for my iPad.
You get automatically upgraded. You get automatically upgraded.
With the same sign-in information?
Yeah. Yes.
Just install the app. Can I still use my parents' sign-in information?
Can I still use your parents'
sign-in? Yes, you can.
Okay, good. No, I'm happy to pay for my own thing. Something, but I mean, we have the HBO Go.
I'm not using your parents' HBO sign-in. I have my own.
Gary!
I feel like it's like having the summer home. Like I'm gonna be able to use it, right? Like, you know what I mean?
Honestly, yeah. All right. So what movies are we gonna do next week, you guys? What are we gonna do
next week?
1989.
I'm really excited.
1989.
So many good movies in 1989. John saw
so many good movies.
A bunch of them already, and we've decided, Dave and I have decided, we need to make sure that John has work. We don't want him to get off easy. So he watched Lean on Me and Do the Right Thing recently, as he's talked about on this podcast. So therefore, those movies have been disqualified for us reviewing them as a group next week. So we are going to be doing...
We're actually doing Do the Right Thing.
No, I thought we were doing Do the Right Thing.
Yeah.
Do the Right Thing and Dead Poets Society. That is right.
What did you do during the break?
We're drunk.
Jeff, have a drink.
Cocaine. It's the
I
cocaine.
actually thought today, I was like, should I write these down? And I was like, it's not that
Cocaine's a
long.
hell of a
I wrote that
drug.
down. We had a 20-minute discussion about this.
All right, so we're
You
doing Do the Right Thing.
every fucking time.
No, I didn't
then
put
we're
my
gonna
feet on Eddie
bring,
Murphy's couch. Yeah, I put my feet on
And then we're going to bring Robin Williams back with some Dead Poets Society.
And haven't we all needed a little Robin Williams right now?
Oh, Captain,
Who
my
else?
Captain.
R.I.P. Man.
And then
This is
Ethan
going to be
Hawke
fun.
in there, yeah.
This is going to be
we're gonna
fun.
take it right back. We're gonna put in some damn skinny jeans,
That's right.
and we're
Cowboy
gonna do
boots.
Roadhouse.
Roadhouse!
Yeah, so many
And
Peter
Roadhouse,
Griffin.
Patrick Swayze. That is
How
going
many
to be
times
the,
are
was
we
it
going to
really that
say
bad?
Roadhouse next week? I can't wait.
Do we need a separate buzzer for Roadhouses?
Roadhouse. God, I'm excited.
All
There's
right, my friends.
What kind of kick is that? You turn around and you kick.
roundhouse.
A roundhouse.
So many roundhouse
What
kicks.
kind
in
of kick
Cowboy
is that? All right, my friends, we will see you next week. We're looking forward to it.